Welcome to Taylor's Insights, where we bring you the latest in geopolitical developments that could reshape the Middle East. As tensions between Israel and Iran escalate, a 30-minute critical call between U.S. President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu may change the course of events. What lies ahead for Israel, Iran, and the global powers involved? Stay tuned to find out the key details and potential outcomes. On 9 October, U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a critical 30-minute call, their first direct conversation in months. This call took place amid a rapidly escalating conflict with Iran, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The two leaders discussed Israel's planned military response following Iran's recent missile attacks. While both nations agree on the need for retaliation, disagreements persist on the scale of the operation. Could this call set the course for Israel's next move? This phone call wasn't a standalone event. It was the culmination of nearly 2 weeks of intense consultations between U.S. and Israeli officials following Iran's missile barrage on 1 October. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and Israel's Minister for Strategic Affairs, Ron Dermer, had the most detailed discussion yet about Israel's planned retaliation, paving the way for the Biden-Netanyahu call. While the Biden administration understands Israel's need to respond, it is concerned about the broader implications. Senior U.S. officials fear that strikes on certain critical Iranian targets could escalate the conflict into a full-scale regional war. Despite these concerns, Israeli officials have made it clear that the country will not back down. In fact, they claim the gaps between the two allies are narrowing, with Israel moving closer to launching its long-planned attack on Iran. As Israeli fighter jets stand ready, Israel's security cabinet has convened to vote on the IDF's attack plan. Sources indicate that the cabinet will authorize Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant to determine the timing of the strike. Israeli officials say their response will be lethal, precise, and surprising, aimed at making Iran pay for the missile barrage that targeted Israeli territory. In Tehran, the response has been swift. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, warned that his country is fully prepared to take stronger defensive actions if Israel proceeds with its retaliation. Araghchi made it clear in a letter to global leaders that any further Israeli aggression will be met with an equally strong response. The question now is, how far is each side willing to go? If Israel moves forward with its plan, military experts believe it could rely on long-range or ballistic missiles for a swift and decisive attack. Israeli fighter jets would have to cover thousands of miles to hit key Iranian targets, making missile strikes a more efficient option. Meanwhile, Iranian hardliners are pushing for a shift in the country's nuclear doctrine, calling for more aggressive measures to counter Israel's threats. While the Biden administration supports Israel's right to defend itself, it walks a tightrope, seeking to avoid a broader conflict that could destabilize the region. U.S. officials hope that continued talks with Israel will prevent strikes on critical Iranian targets, such as nuclear facilities, which could provoke a wider war. For now, both nations are locked in a delicate balance, with military action seeming inevitable. As the region teeters on the brink of war, all eyes are on Israel's next move. The Security Cabinet has already given the green light for retaliation, but the question remains, will Israel's strikes provoke a larger, uncontrollable conflict, or will diplomacy manage to steer the situation toward de-escalation? With tensions running high, the coming days will be crucial for the future of the Middle East. As tensions rise, the involvement of global powers becomes inevitable. Russia and China have long-standing ties with Iran, but their official stance remains cautious. Meanwhile, the European Union, traditionally a mediator, may find itself inching closer to Israel due to shared concerns over regional stability. The division between Eastern and Western powers in this conflict could set the stage for a much larger confrontation. Sunni Muslim countries, particularly Saudi Arabia and the UAE, view Iran as a growing threat. While these nations may not publicly support Israel, they are likely to offer covert support in the event of an Israeli-Iranian conflict. At the same time, countries like Turkey and Qatar could emerge as key mediators, leveraging their ties with both Israel and Iran. With both nations poised for confrontation, the question is no longer if, but when a wider conflict might break out. Will Israel's strike on Iran trigger a broader regional war? Or can international diplomacy intervene at the last minute? As the situation in the Middle East hangs in the balance, the geopolitical divisions could ripple across the world. In our next video, we will explore the potential alliances and divisions that may emerge. Will Russia and China side with Iran, while the European Union aligns with Israel? And how will the Arab world, particularly Sunni Muslim nations, navigate this high-stakes conflict? End of the video. Subscribe to our channel.